Okay, so picture this. It's the year 533 AD. The Byzantine Emperor Justinian, he's got this grand plan to bring the lost Roman province of Africa back into the fold. It's supposed to be this huge, glorious comeback story. But what if the official story we all know is a lie? What if this glorious liberation was actually a brutal, self-defeating conquest from the very beginning?
And that's really the big question we're digging into here. The official version of events is all about a righteous victory. But the reality, what was actually happening on the ground? Well, that was far, far darker. What really went down after the Byzantine legions landed on those shores?
So, how do we know all this? Well, our inside man, our guide into this whole hidden story, is the historian Procopius. See, in public, he wrote all the official histories, praising the emperor, but secretly, he wrote another book, a tell-all account, spilling all the secrets about the greed, the incompetence, and the sheer brutality that really defined the whole campaign. He was there, he saw it all, and he was ready to expose the truth.
Now, at first, everything seemed to be going perfectly to plan. For Justinian, this wasn't just a war, it was a divine mission. The Vandals who ruled Africa were Arian heretics. Now, they were Christians, sure, but they had a different take on the Trinity that the official church in Constantinople condemned, and they'd been persecuting the local Catholic population. Their kingdom looked tough on the outside, but really it was just an illusion.
And Justinian, he did not mess around. He sent a massive fleet. We're talking 500 ships, 18,000 men, all under his star general, Belisarius. And talk about bad timing for the Vandal king, Gelimer. He was completely distracted, dealing with revolts in other parts of his kingdom, leaving himself totally vulnerable.
That phrase House of Cards is perfect, because the Vandal kingdom literally just collapsed. Belisarius only needed 2 major battles to completely shatter their forces. It was a shockingly fast and easy victory. In just a matter of months, the Vandal king was captured, and their kingdom was gone. For the locals, this mix of Roman-descended city dwellers and the native Berber tribes, this felt like a true liberation. They were fellow Catholics, and they were hoping for a return to the good old days of Roman rule. But that hope, it wasn't going to last long.
Okay, and this is where the story completely flips on its head. That beautiful promise of liberation, it went sour, and fast. The Byzantines started showing their true colors, and they weren't acting like fellow Romans. They were acting like a new colonial power.
And this right here is the central betrayal. The promise was super simple. Hey, all that land the Vandals stole from your families, you're getting it back. Sounds great, right? But then came the catch, the impossible catch. Families had to produce 100-year-old deeds to prove ownership. Of course, nobody had them. In one single move, all that land became imperial property. The liberators became the new landlords. Just like that. And Procopius, in his secret book, he does not pull any punches. He says that before the invasion, the Libyans, that was his word for the Romanized Africans, were way more numerous than the Moors or the Berbers. But under Byzantine rule, he claims the Romanized population was so crushed, so devastated, that the Berbers basically took their place as the dominant group. This betrayal didn't just make people angry, it lit the whole province on fire. The next 100 years were just non-stop warfare, army mutinies, and even plague. That dream of a restored Roman Africa, it became a total nightmare. Just look at this timeline. It shows you how quickly everything went off the rails. The chaos was immediate. Almost instantly, the Berber kingdoms rise up, refusing to be ruled. Then, the Byzantine army itself mutinies over not getting paid. And then, as if things couldn't get any worse, the plague of Justinian hits, gutting the military. It was just one disaster right after another. And you'd think they'd try to make things better, right? Nope. The Byzantines just doubled down with some truly staggering arrogance. One governor, Duke Sergius, invites a bunch of Berber chieftains to a peace talk and then murders them all. His own uncle, the General Solomon, executed the brother of his most loyal Berber ally, turning a friend into a bitter enemy overnight. And the crazier part? Justinian promotes the murderous Sergius to governor of the whole province. You can't make this stuff up. They were their own worst enemy.
So after years of just total failure, someone in Constantinople finally got the message, this grand reconquest, it was a fantasy, it was over. The whole strategy had to change, from expansion to just survival.
So, they send in a new guy, a competent general named John Troglita. And this guy, he was a total realist. He stopped trying to conquer every last inch of the old province. Instead, he got pragmatic. He made alliances with some Berber chiefs to fight others, and he accepted that Byzantine Africa was going to be smaller now. a province that had to share the land with powerful Berber kingdoms.
But here's the problem. This new, fragile stability came with a massive price tag. First, Troglietta built a huge, expensive forts network. To pay for it all, taxes on the locals were jacked up to crushing, totally unsustainable levels. And to top it all off, Justinian decided to meddle in a local religious dispute, firing the entire African clergy and replacing them with his own guys from the capital. This created a huge rift between the people and the empire.
And this right here, this really shows you the fatal math of the situation. Military spending is through the roof, which means taxes on the locals are also through the roof. And what happens to local support? It plummets. The African population was stuck between an empire that demanded everything from them and the powerful Berber kingdoms rising up all around them. So, after all that chaos, the wars, the plague, the betrayals, what was even left? It wasn't a glorious Roman comeback, that's for sure. It was just a long, slow, sad decline. The province of Africa, once one of the brightest jewels in the Roman world, was about to fade into a forgotten backwater. Historians actually call this next period the obscure century. You know why? It's basically because the imperial writers back in the capital just stopped caring. Africa fell off the map. During this time, the smartest people, the elites, they fled the province, and its unique Roman culture just began to wither away. It was kind of a last-ditch effort, a desperate move to try and salvage the province. They created something called the Exarchate of Carthage. This basically gave one super governor total military and civil power. It was pretty much an admission that trying to rule this mess from far-off Constantinople just wasn't working. So, if you're gonna remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. The Byzantine invasion did not restore Roman power. Not even close. Instead, it completely smashed the old order and created a massive power vacuum. And that vacuum was filled by strong, independent Berber kingdoms, who were now the real power in the region. So you've got this province that's just a shell of its former self, weak, isolated, completely drained. And just then, a new unifying force starts to rise out of the desert, from a place that nobody in Constantinople was even thinking about. Which really leaves you with one final thought. When the Arab armies showed up a few decades later, they didn't find a strong, loyal Roman province. They found a place that was already broken, exhausted from war, politically divided, and full of people who had no real reason to fight for a distant emperor. You have to wonder, did Justinian's grand, failed comeback actually pave the way for the next great conquest? His dream didn't just fail, it created a vacuum. A failure so total that it might have doomed Roman Africa for good.